Okay, hi Russ. Look, thank you for joining us again on 12th and final round. It's a pleasure to have you as always.
Should I call you Curtis or just start off with Neil right
Why
off?
don't we go off with Neil to start off with? Yeah, Paul, Curtis, or Neil. The choice is yours. I'm fine with any of those.
How are you,
How are
Neil?
you?
Okay.
Yeah, very good. You?
I'm good. I'm sorry I missed you on Saturday.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, I was there obviously, and fantastic fight. Really enjoyed it. The last two fights on that card were brilliant. Derek's was amazing. What was your take on it? Because I can't work out whether it was a great fight from Derek or whether Wallin didn't do what we thought he was going to do. Maybe we could start off with Derek. What did you think about the fight?
Well, there's always that case, right? Every time somebody wins a fight,
Yeah.
and a former fighter of mine, David Lemieux, said this, and like David is not necessarily one for, great quotes, but he's this one he nailed right. And it was during, earlier in his career, he got interviewed and a guy said to him, he knocked somebody out in one round or two rounds. And the reporter asked him, when are you going to fight somebody that's good?
Mm-hmm.
And his answer to the reporter, which I thought was brilliant, and David has a way of doing that sometimes, coming up with brilliance like this when you least expect it. He said, just because I knocked them out doesn't mean they're not good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think, you can always say, did Wallin not perform? Well, did Wallin not perform because Derek didn't let him perform?
Well,
right?
You said that. Yeah, you said that last time we spoke. You said, I think I said I thought that Wallin was going to be a really difficult fight for Derek. And your response was, well, I think Derek's going to be a really difficult fight for Wallin. And I think that was the case, yeah.
So there you go. Now, what I did say to Derek last night, we spoke for the first time since the fight. His exact quote to me was, sorry, bro, I was healing. I'm healing, he said. So I can't see my phone. I said, okay, no problem. So what I said to him was, I don't get it how at this stage in his career, he puts up one of the best performances of his life over a 12-round distance. It was even better than the Joyce performance. He's just getting better with each fight. So I can't explain it, but whatever it was, it worked for him. And he was able to impose himself. He did one of the things that we spoke about in the fight, and I told him this yesterday. He stayed low. He didn't try to match height with Wallin. And I think by staying low, he was able to bridge the gap much easier, get closer, attack that body much quicker, stayed on it. And I think it made a difference in the fight. I think it was a deciding factor. And I think, he may have actually dominated. I don't exactly remember what the scores were. One judge, I think, had it.
Really. Yeah, they did. And I noticed everybody's response in Chisora's corner when they called that out. I noticed everyone peered out the corner of the ring and looked clearly where the judge was and sort of shook their head and like, how could it possibly have been that close? I didn't have it anywhere near that. I had Chisora winning almost every round, to be frank.
Almost every round. I agree. Yeah. 2 rounds by 2 points.
Well, of course, yeah. There's a knockdown in the last round. Yeah. Okay.
I'm just thinking, are you crazy? Without those knockdowns, according to those judges, I have to see the exact scores, but off the top of my head, I thought, are you telling me without these 2 knockdowns, we lose this fight? Like, what are you watching?
Yeah.
What are you watching?
We had the same conversation on the way home. It was like, well, hang on, that's 2 knockdowns. So if that hadn't have happened, they'd have had it the other way. It just doesn't make any sense. But we talked about judges before, haven't we? We've talked about this whole sort of subjective thing of judging. So who knows? But the point is, the right guy won, I guess, yeah.
Neil, what we need from judging, whether it's this fight or any other fight, we need accountability. We need judges to understand that they're not just writing 2 numbers on a piece of paper in introverted order, 10-9, 10-9, 10-9, 10-9, whenever they feel like it. They need to be accountable, even in fights that they decide you should be accountable as to why you won, why you scored it that way. We could even add on the scorecard, you 10-9, and then have a selection of ticking off of why you gave those rounds. Landed more shots, was the aggressor, showed better defense. List off the things that caught your eye as to why you think the guy won the round. But there has to be more accountability other than just writing 10-9 and saying, that's the way I saw it. That's not good enough. That's the way I saw it is not good enough anymore.
Yeah, and it's a recurring theme. This isn't the
Of course
first time
it
that
is.
we've talked about it, and we've only been talking about boxing for, I don't know, 3 or 4 months, but it is a recurring theme throughout the history of kind of boxing, really.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And
When
it's not
you,
right. And I'm a historian, and I look back on fights, old fights, and one of the most famous robberies of all time involved two of my favorite heavyweights of all time in Joe Louis and Jersey Joe Walcott.
right,
And to see the reaction of Walcott's corner after the fight, and Louis, who left the ring before the decision was announced, left knowing fully well he got beat, and to have that decision that bad then, and we have made no significant improvements over judging or the rules regarding judging or what they have to say or do or their accountability, is insane. It's insane.
Russ, in that particular fight, there was a cut. I think it was in the third round. I haven't watched the fight back, but I know there was a cut, and we were close enough to see it actually happening. I don't know whether it was a clash of heads or it was an actual punch, but it looked pretty bad when they zoomed in at screen. What did it look like to you? Was it a difficult one to deal with, or
one of the worst I've ever dealt with? One of the worst I ever dealt with, because it was under the eyebrow.
Yeah.
So it wasn't exactly on the eyelid, but under, like almost on the bridge of the eyebrow and the eyelid, where if I'm trying to put any kind of pressure on him, I'm going to poke his eye out. You understand? Like, that's how bad it was. And it just kept getting progressively bigger as the fight wore on. It started off at about maybe not even an inch, maybe half an inch, little over half an inch wide, and it ended up being an inch and a half at the end of the fight. It just kept getting larger and larger, and every time it got larger, every time I coagulated it and stopped it in one spot, as it got bigger, as it just tore, because the skin is so fragile there, it just tore. Like there's nothing to stop it from tearing. It's not a strong skin at that point. No. It just kept opening and leaking out of the corner each time. And I talked to Derek about it yesterday, and I said, yo, Derek, every time you left the corner, it was stopped. The bleeding was stopped. But then it would just take one punch or a little rough on the inside. And a couple of times I caught Wallin rubbing Chisora's face with his glove right where the cut was to try to reopen it. And it did. It started the bleeding again, but it almost, because it kept getting bigger. Every time he comes back, I said, wait a minute, it wasn't this big the round before. And it just kept getting progressively larger. So it went, like I said, from what would have been a half inch or maybe 3/4 inch cut at the start when the headbutt happened. And I think it happened in round 5, if I'm not mistaken. But
it was early on. It was definitely early on.
Definitely early on. And it just got larger and larger as each round passed. And it was one of the toughest cuts I've ever had to deal with. I regret one thing, though, and I think I'm going to have to make a point of this. Normally, it's been okay when a cut has been on the right side of a boxer that I could work from the outside and take care of it.
Yeah.
It's never happened before in the UK. But the way they build the rings in the UK, the top rope is too high for me to work over, and the bottom rope, the second rope going in between, is also too high, doesn't allow me to bend over. There's a difference in where they're putting the way they're spacing the ropes in a British ring. I should have gone in the ring, because that way I would have been face on to Chisora, and I would have been able to move with him when he would bend down to spit. I would be able to follow him down. This time, like, I'm trying to work over the rope, and every time he bent down, I couldn't follow him. I couldn't stay with him. It was very uncomfortable for him and uncomfortable for me. And I should have told Alex, I want to go in the ring, and I should have done that. I should have gone in the ring. I don't know how much of a difference it would have made, but at least I would have faced it, head on. And one of the guys in the corner that worked with us, Ruben was great in helping out with that, because we had to deal with 3 cuts. There was 2 over the right eye and one over and above the right eye and one under the left eye. And he helped me with that. They ended up being minor. Took some stitches on the one on the bottom, but when the one on the bottom happened, I got to it right away. It never bled again. Never bled again. And he took, I think, 2 or 3 stitches on that one at the bottom. Never bled. The one on the top of the eye just kept opening more and more, and every time it opened, it was a new bleed.
How many stitches? Do you know how many stitches you had to take?
I don't, but they sent me a picture, and I don't know if I can share this on here with you. I'll certainly try. But I asked Nicole the same question, and here's what they said. It looks like it was. I mean, from the picture, it looks like 4, but I mean, they weren't spaced very well. And considering the bottom one took 2 and the big top one took 4, I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, that's good. Just hold that there. Yeah. Yeah, I can see 3 or 4 stitches there, and just 2 or 3 underneath.
You have to think that like the bottom one took 2, and it was a small one, and the top one looks like it took 4, and it's 3 times the length, you know. So
it is. It's strange that. Yeah.
So
and you said that you've spoken to him recently, and he's just sort of recovering from it and healing, I guess, at the moment.
That's what he said. He said, "I'm healing, bro. I'm healing." It's okay. You're healing. You're healing.
I noticed in that fight after that cut, I guess it's normal for another boxer to do this, but Wallin wasn't throwing that many punches, but the punches he was throwing were clearly aimed at that eye. And there was a lot of scuffing up of the eye going on during the fight when they were close in as well. So I could see that just getting worse and worse and worse. In terms of, I think that's what Wallin was focusing on.
He certainly was focusing on it. You could see it. And again, it's almost natural that the southpaw's left hand is coming at the right eye.
Yeah.
You know, and then sometimes Chisora would switch, and so he's leading with the right eye. You know, it didn't make for. Nothing was good about the cut. You're going to get hit on it. You're wrestling with it. It's on your strong side. You're dealing with a left-hander coming at you. It's not good. Any way you look at it, it's not good. Richie Woodall, who was doing the call of the fight, said he didn't think it was a good idea that he switched, and which makes sense because you're putting the eye more in the path. But for some reason, and this usually doesn't work that well, switching from right-handed to southpaw for Chisora in that fight, he executed that almost to perfection. Almost to perfection. And I gave him full credit for his training team, Alexis, who did this. They called this. They were working on this. It worked. And there's one thing to want to do something, and then there's another thing to do it, and it works. He was able to do both, which was remarkable.
Well, it really was a great performance. I don't know how well it ranks amongst all of his other fights. It's just so difficult to tell when a guy like that has got a career that's lasted so many years. But it was one of the best fights I'd seen him in for a long time. Anyway, absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, and he came out, less banged up in this fight. The Joe Joyce fight was a punishing, grueling affair. Where he was in there on heart alone. Like I tell everybody after that fight, I got brain damage working the corner, Yeah.
Well, he didn't take anywhere near the number of shots, did he, against Wallin?
No, not at all. Not at all. It was just he was tired from the exhaustion of working, but not from heavy punches that he took like he did in the Chisora, in the Joyce fight.
Yeah, he looked in really good shape. Cardio must be fantastic for a guy sort of 18.5 stone, constantly going forward. It's quite remarkable, really.
Yeah, it was.
In that fight, I read later that it was an eliminator fight for the IBF.
Yeah.
I'm not certain how all this works out. So at the moment, I think the IBF slot 1 and slot 2 are vacant, and they're now fighting for the eliminator positions in those 2, are they? Because we've got people like Zhang and Kabayal that keep coming up on the IBF saying that they're fighting for an eliminator. We've got Derek that's for an eliminator. Do you know exactly how this all pans out? And of course, we've got no. Very difficult to get to the bottom of it. It really is.
No idea. It's so confusing. But what I did say, in a perfect world, Derek Chisora needs a shot at a piece of the heavyweight championship of the world.
Yeah.
And the people want to come out and see him in a fight where he legitimately could become a title holder in the heavyweight division, a legitimate title, not an IBO title, not one of the top 4. He could have a shot at that. In a perfect world, if Frank can do this, he gets the winner. He gets the winner of Joyce. I'm sorry, of Dubois and Parker. And I think either one of those guys, he's in a legitimate shot to win. Shot to win.
Do you think he is in a more legitimate shot or position than, say, Martin Bacoli, who's kind of been there and about for a while? I know we've talked about how avoided he is. How does the IBF put these rankings together?
Because this, I don't know. I can't speak on this. I don't know how they do it, because just to give you an example away from the IBF, David Benavidez just beat David Morrell for the interim WBC light heavyweight title. Whatever the flying F that means, okay?
Yeah.
Your WBC undisputed champion is defending his title in a week's time, in 10 days. How do you have two guys fighting for an interim title?
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
So I can't answer how they'll do that, but I could easily see if the IBF said we would sanction Chisora against the winner of either Parker or Dubois. I think a Dubois fight, in the UK.
Oh, huge,
massive.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the fight, Derek held up 3 photos, didn't he? He had Usyk on one photo, he had Joshua on the other, and then Dubois on the third. And I think he called to the audience and said, "Which one would you like me to see me fight?" If it is Dubois, I can see how there might be a pathway to that. Somebody like Usyk, and no disrespect to Derek at all, because he clearly is a legend in the sport. But Usyk maybe slightly, he's a different level to Derek Chisora.
I said that to Derek yesterday, and I'll speak to him again in Saudi. But I said, he wants to fight for the WBC title, and in my head I'm thinking, you want to fight for the title or you want a shot at winning the title? And I told him this, that the odds are going to be more in your favor taking on Parker or Dubois than they would be taking on the guy who just thrashed Tyson Fury in 2 back-to-back fights. So. But I understand his pride of where he wants to fight, what the money could mean. But can you imagine what it would be like if he did fight the winner of Parker Dubois and won a piece of the heavyweight belt? Now, for Usyk to try to be undisputed, 2-time undisputed champion, and you both guys come into the ring with a belt, I think is as big a fight as you could possibly make in the UK.
Well, you know what? Their first fight was a really good fight. I watched it again last night. I'm not saying it was close, but it was a really good effort from Derek Chisora. Same kind of tactics, kept moving forward all the time, kept low. And of course, when you watch that fight, Usyk actually does look a little bit lighter than he does now. He's got grown into this heavyweight division. He looks at least half a stone, maybe a stone less, but he probably wasn't. But you never can tell with the weigh-ins whether he was sort of loading anything in his pockets against Chisora or not, just to appear heavier. But he certainly looks heavier now than he did when he fought Chisora the first time around.
100%, much more muscle on him now, which is why I will do everything in my power to speak to whoever I could to discourage them from ever trying to make Usyk go back down in weight.
Yeah.
That would be, to me, fatal.
Well, I suppose that must be a real challenge, sort of physiologically. You've got to then start to lose muscle, because it's not just fat. When you look at Usyk, you can see there's muscle there. And to start to lose and break down muscle is a different kettle of fish to putting muscle on.
Look what it did to Roy Jones.
Yeah.
I need not say anymore. The atrophy that occurred doesn't just take off the weight, it destroys what's ever left as well.
Yeah.
So I don't believe in it. I've never seen fighters move up in weight with success and come back down and have the same success they had before moving up. I've never seen it.
No, I mean, just very, very quickly with the Usyk thing, he's there's a story out today that he's looking for 2 more fights before he retires. I don't know whether this is accurate or not, but it's appearing on quite a few sort of media channels. The first, he says he's very happy to fight the winner of Dubois, Parker, or whoever the IBF sort of sends over to him. The second one is a UFC fighter called Pereira. who I don't know whether you know anything about. So he said the second one might be a sort of an entertainment fight rather than a world title fight. A world title fight. So who knows? Yeah, you have no insight on this at all, I guess, at the moment.
No. This is all just talk for media stuff. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? What's your plans? What's your plan? And you know what? The intention from Usyk might be there when he provides those answers, but at the end of the day, it's going to be what are the promoters going to agree upon? What's possibility on the table? Who are the possible opponents? Where would the fight be? What kind of money is it all about? I mean, things could change, like you kind of have a wishful thinking, but nothing is done until you sit at the table and look at everything and who's available and what's the timeline and what the prices are for them. And which is why I say Chisora, Chisora fighting, the winner of Parker Dubois and then meeting Usyk could be massive.
So will you be seeing Usyk over the next week? So is he going to be at the event on the 20th, late February?
I don't know if he's going to be there. Chisora will be, but I don't know if Usyk is. I don't know yet.
And you're going over there for what purpose, Russ?
I'm with Callum Smith against Buatsi. Very exciting fight. Again, another fight that, I don't know if I told you this or not, Neil. Everyone asked me, Russ, what do you think about this card in Saudi? What a great card. Yeah, great card. You could have had 7 great cards with the people that are on that event.
Yeah.
That hurts me a little bit. That to me, as much as you want to say, wow, this is great, Buatsi and Callum Smith headlining in the UK in a Riyadh season promotion. I mean, it's not about the promoter. That's a problem. If you have this fight on in the UK, which it is like you say, a British dust up, it's brilliant. And then you have undercards featuring all rising prospects, rising fighters, that are going to have eyes on them because people are at this fight for Buatsi and Smith, whereas now you're not getting any additional eyes because whatever pay-per-views or whatever tickets you've sold, you would have sold out with 1 or 2 of those fights on the same card. You didn't need 7. So now you have Buatsi and Smith acting as a 4-round opening preliminary fight to Bivol and Beterbiev, and it's not that. And we know it's not that. We know it's going to be a 12-round war. Okay, that's fine. But it's going to be treated as such because the people aren't going to be in that place for that long to see that many fights, and it will not be that same atmosphere. It just doesn't happen.
Do you think maybe that's one of a slight problem with sort of Riyadh season and the way that it's being dealt with? So the undercard now to the main event could be main event fights in themselves, obviously.
Not could be. They are main event fights of themselves. Yeah. They are.
So we're kind of taking the limelight away from other undercard fights that really should be out there that we're just not getting a chance to see.
Do you not think Dubois and Parker could be a main event fight somewhere?
100%. Of course.
Buatsi Smith. I can't even think of Shakur Stevenson.
We've got Zhang. We've got Zhang. Yeah, Zhang against Caballero. Yeah.
That's a huge fight.
Yeah. Well, looking at that undercard then, very, very quickly. Parker Dubois, just a simple. Which way is that going for you?
You know what? Dubois has had great success and a great boost of confidence since his fight with Usyk. Indeed. And I think he might even owe part of that to Usyk because Usyk told him after the fight, keep going, because he looked like he was ready to quit. And it looked like, he didn't want to have anything to do with this anymore. And all of a sudden now, he's king of the world. Great confidence in him. Great corner in Don Charles. I think they call a good fight for him. If he thinks he's just going to walk in and plow through Joseph Parker, I think he might be in for a rude awakening. So I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to pick skills and technique over power and brawn in this one. And I think I like Joseph Parker by unanimous decision or maybe even a late stoppage, but I like his skill set over. I don't know why. I just like what he's done, the way he's evolved, how dangerous of a fighter he's been for so long. I think I just like the look of Parker right now. Great corner. I I think I'm going to go with Parker on a decision on this one.
Yeah, okay.
What
about Bivol?
I'm betting the house, but
no, actually, I haven't looked at the odds, but I'm guessing the odds are going to be pretty close for both of them, actually. So you probably no one's going to make that much money on it if they were to bet on something like that. But yeah, it's going to be a close fight for sure. What about Bivol and Beterbiev?
Bivol and Beterbiev, I think, and I'm basing this on the last fight. I think the last fight you saw a Beterbiev who was probably at 75%, maybe 80%, if I'm being generous, of what he could be. And he was coming off surgery, dealing with ailing issues on his body in that camp, and still was able to close the show strong and win the fight. And I think, you could, it was a close fight, yes, but I'm not sure you could turn around and say that A, it was a robbery, because it was not, and B, I'm not sure you can turn around and give the win to Bivol. Did Bivol fight a masterful fight? Absolutely. I think Bivol showed us he's at 100%. I don't know how much better he gets, but I think Beterbiev gets better. I think. And I think Beterbiev is also confident, knowing that he wasn't 100%, knowing he didn't do a lot of the things that he's very good at, attacking the body, ripping uppercuts. I think there's a lot of stuff he could have done. Didn't put a lot of combinations together. When he did, it bothered Bivol. I'm thinking he makes up that improvement on what he was. We're not dealing with those issues that he had in the first fight in training camp, not dealing with them now. I think his confidence, and he knows what he's up against in Bivol. He's tasted it. He's felt it. He knows what he's in there with. I think his confidence has gone up, and of course, he's got that power. I'm going with, again, a dominating performance from Beterbiev and maybe a late stoppage.
Okay, what a division that is, by the way. Weight class, it's absolutely packed, isn't it? It's absolutely packed. And the last one, then just quickly, is Zhang and Caballel. That's one that I'm looking forward to as well. Another really good heavyweight fight. What do you think?
That's exciting. I like Caballel. I think he's a really smart fighter, and he's going to have a big monster in front of him. It's going to be interesting how he's going to handle it. That said, the last time he had a big monster in front of him was Makhmudov, and he handled and broke Makhmudov down rather easily. And Makhmudov's an even bigger puncher. The only thing is, Zhang being the southpaw could be problematic. That could be a problem for Caballel. We'll wait and see. But I like Caballel's overall work in the ring, what he can do. He's not an easy out for anybody.
Okay, well, look.
A prediction on that one. If you're asking me for a prediction on that one, I don't know. I'm just saying I like Caballel. I like the way he fights, but Zhang is a problem. And Zhang, again, is riding high now after that win over Deontay Wilder.
Yeah, I've got Caballel with that fight. I can't believe I'm going with that, but that's the way I'm going with that one. Right, Russ, you're off, I guess, flight maybe in the next couple of days, are you?
Yeah, Saturday night I leave here, arrive in Saudi on Sunday night, and I'll be there for the week.
Okay, well, safe flight, and hopefully we can catch up with you whilst you're there, and we can get a bit of an insight as to what's going on over there. That'd be great.
Yeah, it would be great. And I might even do it from the Ronnie O'Sullivan Snooker Academy for you.